Welcome, everyone, to the 60 Days to Automate Challenge. I'm really excited to get started and to really help share all of the information that I've learned over the last really 20 years and the last 3 years of automation and AI that I want to share with you. And this course isn't just going to be about some prompts, it's not just going to even be about some basic workflows. We're going to be building a full automation system that is private to you and your infrastructure and teach you how to learn some of the most cutting edge tools in AI and automation out there today. My name is Bradley Taylor, and I have over 20 years of entrepreneurial experience. I've built startups, I've built services companies, I've even had door-to-door sales companies, and even a lawn mowing business. I have had many businesses over the years. Plus, I've also worked at a lot of different companies and seen what works in the enterprise and what doesn't as well. So I have experience in customer success, marketing, sales, engineering. And a lot of what you'll see in this course has a lot to do with how I build my businesses, how I think of content, how I think of sales processes, and kind of really just a showcase of everything that I've built over the last 20 years. But I've been trying to automate for 20 years. In lots of different aspects. And really, I've built over about 1,000 automations for my customers, and we personally have 486 running internally, automating every single part of our business, from sales to customer support to marketing to engineering. And that's what I'm going to share with you during this course. So, what are our goals today? Every single day is going to have a similar agenda. We want to make this course accessible to everyone. So today our goals are to understand the basics of automation. What is automation? What's AI? Maybe you've already been using ChatGPT. Maybe you haven't. Maybe you've seen some of these automation tools that we're going to be covering. Or maybe this is all brand new to you. No matter your skill level, no matter where you're at in your journey, I'm going to try to make this as accessible to everyone as possible. Every single example is going to be done from scratch, even signing up for the accounts, even setting these things up locally when that is required, showing how all of these things are built. Today, we're going to be building one of the very first automations, the form. You got to start somewhere. So we're going to be building a form in both Google Sheets and in Microsoft Forms. So I'm primarily a Google user, but I know a lot of people are Microsoft users as well. So during this course, I'm going to be making a lot of these automations to work with both Google products and Microsoft products. You'll also see a lot of overlap between the different products that we use. And really the goal of this is to show you the concepts around building a full automation system, because the tools and every single piece of software that you use today is currently being rewritten right now. Every single thing that we use is going to change. So it's so important for you to understand the underlying concepts. Why should you learn automation? Well, at the end of the day, we've been here before. Everyone always says AI is going to take my job. AI is going to do this. AI is going to do that. And AI is just another technology. What it can do is magical. Don't get me wrong. Yes, it can do the complete job of what a single person could do. But we've seen this happen before. So I'm old enough, hate to say it, to remember when email became a thing. When I first started my career in 2004, there were and still people today that refuse to use email. They had their assistant write it out. They would then write their response, and then their assistant would then email them back. I guarantee you that somebody that used email replaced someone who didn't use email. Same thing for the web. When I first came on, my very first job was bringing old newspapers onto the web. A lot of newspapers resisted going onto the web at first. Once again, It's another technology that came along. It didn't replace, it just created digital social media or digital experience managers and web architects. Same thing, social. Everyone was like, do I need to get on Facebook? They thought it was a fad. Now it's $1 trillion company, and is essential if you're going to have any sort of marketing effort. And then there was mobile, everyone. Now, all of these were new technologies. And the one thing that they all have in common is that your business and you had to adapt to use them in order to survive in your career. Because as the adage goes, AI is not going to replace you, but someone that uses it will. So you have to know at least how these tools work, how AI works. Just like you had to learn how email works or how the web works. If you grew up with that, great. Less of a learning curve. But if you're just getting started in your career, there are going to be many more tools that you have to learn throughout of it. And if you're, like me, towards the middle or even towards the end of your career, you've likely, especially if you're in this course, learned other tools, and you just see this as the next evolution. So that's the goal of this, is to just really give you the tools that you need to make that next career move, get that raise, or start your own business, which I highly recommend everyone do. So what is an automation? Before we get into anything, and like I said, most of these live streams will not just be me yammering on. It's going to be more demos and getting into that. But it's important to set the basis of why we're doing this and what it is, to make sure that it's worth your time. And at the end of the day, an automation has four things, right? There's a trigger. Something happens, right? So it could be something manually happen. It could be something that automatic, for instance, another automation, or maybe there's some sort of thing that triggered, made it happen, or time-based. For instance, this runs at midnight or every minute. But there's usually something that happens, right? And then there's an input. The most simplest of automations, and probably the first one, if not the first one, was the web form. Everyone's used one before, and they all follow these same four steps, where you are the trigger by filling it out. There's some input, specific form fields. Maybe it's an API call that goes into this automation. Maybe even now an agent provides that input. But there's some sort of input. So a trigger and an input. Then something happens, right? Something in the background, some process happens. Sometimes it's as simple as just putting that form information into a database. Sometimes it's the recording ends and it creates your blog posts, your social media, and everything else. But something is happening and produces an output. In the case of a form, we have a thank you page. Maybe it's some process data that it also returns, or maybe it triggers another automation once that's done. So every single automation, if you boil it down to those four steps, can have that. Now, there's multiple ways that you can trigger. There's multiple inputs. There's multiple infinite number of things you can do in the process, and there's a number of ways you can have the output. And the big difference that's happened, right? So software, every single piece of software, every single web page you've ever built was built based off of the fact that the trigger and the input and the output all had to be deterministic. What does deterministic means? It means it had to know, I have to know when this trigger is going to happen. Someone filled out a form field. Is someone this? The input, I had to know first name, last name, reason. That had to be very clearly defined. The process it went through, do this, if it does this, do this. The output, how do you want it? All of these things were very set. So you built all this software over time that would try to account for every single situation. Generative AI flips that on its head, because all four parts of these now do not have to be deterministic. You can have an AI determine when to trigger this automation because it thinks that it should, based off of the information that it's done. The AI can determine what input it needs. Oh, for this one, I just need the first name. Oh, for signing up, I just need the email too. It can actually decide what inputs it needs. The process itself can be changed. Hey, if you get this information and you analyze it and it looks like this, then you make the decision on which tree to go down or what to do next. The agent can have autonomy and can actually make decisions. And then the output, at the end of the day, we're all trying to learn new things. We're all trying to do different things. And whatever data that comes back to us, whatever information comes back to us, I'm a visual learner. I like to see things. I'm also an audio learner. I listen to books a lot of times. I like bullet points. Some people are text-based and they like paragraph. The output can be customized to you. And that's why generative AI is so transformative. So, what is generative AI? So it's imagine like planting a seed in your digital garden, right? So when you have this seed, it can grow into blogs, media, video, music, conversations. But how does it actually get there? Well, just as a tree needs its nutrients and it needs its source materials, data, and more importantly, when I mean data, context about who you are, what your business are. All of that stuff is so important for the AI to know, for it to give you the best possible response. So how does this work in terms of how it works? Well, first off, these models, there's a ton of data collection that happens from the web, books, audio, images, videos. I'm not going to get into how these large language models collected that data, but data has been collected and used to train them. I have my own thoughts on that, which you'll probably hear over the course of this course. But then that goes into the model training. Then you, as the user, create a prompt, which we'll go over these terms here pretty soon, which can then output all of the different pieces of content. And that these pieces of content are made up because it has lots of examples of telling stories of what an image of a cat should look like. If you ever go to an image generator and ask for a picture of a cat, there was one of the very first things that image generators could do consistently. Why? There's a lot of pictures of cats on the internet. So, a few things to know is that AI models, they don't know everything. They have recency. They have a cutoff. And that's a big purpose of what we're going to be doing in this course, is that how do you give it the most relevant, up-to-date context? If you ask ChatGPT, for instance, what is something, it'll tell you because it's a tool, it's a product that's been built on top of a language model. And we'll go over what each of these are here in just a second, but just know that it does have recency, that they do have a cutoff. And a big piece of what we're doing is so that it gives it the most recent information and information about you, because your personal emails, your stuff like that wasn't put into the training data. At least we hope not, right? It doesn't have your private data. It also doesn't have niche data sets. This is where you can really fit in. So one thing that you'll hear if you follow AI, you follow automation, is that we're running out of training data, right? And I would put a little caveat to that is, yes, we are running out of training data, but we're running out of niche data sets, right? There's only so many good papers on molecular biology. There's only so many different examples of these really more complex things. That's why, well, AI outputs are pretty generic. Well, if you read the internet, if you read what it's been trained on, like Twitter, you get average stuff. So the more information and the more synthetic data that we create in these niche data sets, the smarter they're going to be. They're going to have. So the smarter they're going to be. So it also doesn't know you and your preferences. As I mentioned, AI is very personal. How you want to communicate with it, how you want to, what data you want to give it access to, and how you want that then given back to you is very personal to you. So It's going to be very, another big reason of going through this course is to make an automation system that's personal to you and what you want to learn. All right. So we're going to go over real quickly some key concepts and terms, and then we'll get into the lesson for today, which is building a form. So you've heard me use the term, but you're going to hear me use it a lot. Prompts. What are prompts? Well, if you're in this course, you've probably heard of a prompt before, but prompts are basically just the words you give it to tell it what to do, right? Now, this prompt can have lots of instructions. You can give it a persona. So for instance, here, write a professional bio for a digital content, name this. You're given a lot of context in here, craft 150-word marketing email, how to use these different templates. They can be used in templates. They can be used for context. But we're going to be writing a lot of prompts, but they're just basically, when you hear me say the word prompt, it's just the words you put into an AI model or into like a chatbot, which we'll be using a lot of. Large language models. So what is an LLM? So I have a lot of questions. They're like, ChatGPT does this, but when I use the API, the actual large language model, it doesn't give me the same results. That's because large language models, they're kind of like a music composer. It's mastered every single genre of music. And, that composer has an encyclopedic knowledge of, how melodies, how harmonies, and how rhythms work, the data that goes into an AI model. And then these large language models use what they know, everything they've learned about melodies, rhythms, harmonies, vocals to create music. Right? It's not always the same music. Just as a composer, they'll have derivative work. If they listen to Bach or Beethoven a lot, maybe it'll sound like that. If they, listen to Megadeth and Korn, it might sound like that. We all draw inspiration as we're learning, and large language models are no different. Some examples of large language models, which most everyone is familiar with, is OpenAI. They have a number of language models from GPT-4o to the new o1 Mini and o1 Preview that we'll be going over. Anthropic, I've actually been using a lot more lately. They are the creators of Claude and Haiku, which are different language models that we'll be going over. Facebook, or Meta as they like to be called these days. Also, they've been doing a lot with the open source. So I got to tip my hat off to them on everything they've been doing in the open source community. And then there's a few other places that host and have models too, like Mixtral, and then Hugging Face is a place where a lot of these open source models. And I truly believe that if we're going to have a future where you don't have GPT-4, like the new model, you're going to have millions of models, just like you're going to have billions of agents. They're all very specifically trained to what they want. And that brings us to our next thing. You'll hear me say fine tuning, right? What is fine tuning? Well, when a composer or when a language model comes out, it's very generic, right? Even the models you use today on ChatGPT, they're pretty generic. And fine tuning can be done in a multitude of ways. There's actually a fine tuning process, which we won't go over in this course. I'll probably do it in an advanced course. But another way of fine tuning it is to what's called post training, or also hooking up all of your systems. So fine tuning it so that your prompts have your brand voice in it. It has examples of your writing. Because just like this same concept of a square, an arm, and some strings can be used to create a guitar, a violin, a cello, all of these just different instruments. You can use this same concept. They all sound a little bit different, but they all have the same basics. And that's kind of the difference between an LLM and then also the fine tuning is we're going to be fine tuning these models to really fit so it sounds in exactly the way that we want it to, just like we're fine tuning our guitar. So then you're also going to hear chatbots. We hear everything about chatbots, right? And that's just one way to communicate with AI. There are a number of ways to communicate with AI. This being one of them, and they can be used for things like frontline customer service, social media responses, customer surveys, and also lead nurturing. There's a lot of different ways outside of just customer support and just using it as an assistant that you can be using your chatbots. And then agents. And I put agents here just because that's the name that they're called, but you'll also hear me call them sidekicks. Because at the end of the day, I believe words matter. And when I think of agent, I think of the Matrix. I think of the FBI agent or something that has agency over you. When we hear things like swarm and all these things, it's very dystopian. And honestly, I think sidekicks is how you need to be thinking about these. They're helpers. They're just like your best coworker that knows everything about you and your business, that can help you, conduct research, that knows so much about you that can operate autonomously on your behalf, that can help you refine your content strategies, can, personalize and help, do all kinds of things, which we'll learn about in this course. What we're going to do now is we're going to jump off and we're going to show you how to create your very own first automation using Google Forms and Microsoft Forms. I'm going to create these with brand new personal accounts that I'm going to be setting up for both of these. So we'll see how it goes. All right, let's jump in. This is what we're going to be looking at today. So we're going to be creating a Gmail account. So create account for my personal use. So for this one, I'm going to create it for digital at scale. I'm just going to call it digital at scale. We'll say digital at scale. First name, last name. All right. So I'm just going to put some day in here. This isn't my real birth date. I'll give myself a few years off, but we'll put that there. So we're going to create my own Gmail. So it's giving me at scale digital. No, we're going to go digital at scale. Let's see if it's available. Let's see. Let's do digital at scale demo. All right, so now we're going to change it real quick while I generate a password so that you don't, oh, never mind, I didn't transition it. All right, let's use a different password there. All right, I have to get that whole transition thing in there. Adding it to my LastPass. And I'm going to put my real name as the recovery. So let me just go here, go back. All right, so we now have a brand new one. We now get to agree to everything that is here for all of the personalization and everything. Great. So now it's signing me up for a brand new account. So here, if I go in here, I now have a Gmail, brand new from scratch, very easy to sign up. But that's not the point of this one. What we're going to be doing is creating a form. So for this exercise, we're going to create a form that just takes someone's name, email, and some information about them. So to do that, up in the top right, there is these 9 dots. And this is where your entry point to all Google information is and how to create these. But if you notice here, there's not forms. If I go in here to Drive, you can see that I don't have any files. If you go into your own Drive, then you'll probably see your own files. But if I go here to New, and then click on Google Forms, that's going to open up this form builder. So here, I'm just going to give it, and I'm going to say digital at scale demo. And I'm just going to give it a description here. So demo for the 60 days to automate challenge. And here gives me some basic formatting, so I can bullet, I can make them links, I can make it bold if I wanted to, but some basic stuff. Then I can start adding my questions. So here I can give it a question. So let's say first name. And as you notice there, if you saw that really quick, it actually went from multiple choice to short answer. So one of the nice things that I've been noticing is that, and you're going to see a lot, is that AI is just going to start being in the background. Just like I don't say I'm using electricity right now to talk to you, or using the web, just like you're not going to be saying I use AI. That used AI right there to then switch it because it knew first name. Most likely I want a short answer and not multiple choice. Maybe you're doing a survey of just Georges, I don't know, but of specific names. But here you're given a lot of different types. So here's short answer, that's the simple just text field. You also have a paragraph. So if I wanted to make this so that it was long answer, you can also do multiple choice, which we'll go over here in a minute, but I'm going to choose short answer here. And then if I want to just duplicate it, I can hit this button. If I want to remove it, I can hit the delete button. And if I want to make it required, I can do this. So you have your basic information for creating a field. Let's say I wanted to add an image to supplement this. Maybe the question has to relate to some sort of image. Let's go ahead and upload one of the thumbnails maybe from this video. So if I wanted to ask a question, if I wanted to ask a question about this, this is how you could add images to your form. I'm going to go ahead and remove that, but you can center, left align it. Lots of different capabilities in this. But, so we have our first name. Let's add another question. So if I click on this button right here, it's going to give me yet another area that I can put in for last name. And let's go ahead and add a different one. Let's add, let's say, have you ever created an automation before? And here I do want to have an option, yes or no. So here I'm going to say yes, and then another option for no. Once again, it just kind of added that for me. It's kind of helping me go along. And I'm going to spell you right. And then this gets me to my next thing, which is when I go here, I can create an entire section. And I'm going to do that. So this entire section, I'm going to move this second question down here. So if you didn't catch that, what I did was instead of pressing the plus button here for adding a question, I added this new section. And I'm going to add a second section here as well. And the reason I'm going to do this is so that I can show you what's called conditional pathing. So if I say yes, maybe I want to ask different questions than if they've said no. So in that case, if they say yes, I'm going to ask the question of automate, has automated before. Maybe I don't use that. But here I'm going to, what have you built? And I'm going to give it a paragraph answer there. But if they haven't, never automated before, I'm going to ask a different question, which is, what do you hope to learn? Once again, a paragraph. So I have these two sections, right? So I have this form, first name, last name, have you ever created an automation before? And then for section 2, has automated before, or if they have, we're going to ask them what they've built. And if they haven't, we're going to ask what they've hoped to learn. Now, how do you hook this up? This is where we go in here. And for this multiple choice, we have this little box right here which says go to section based on the answer. So here I can say if they say yes, I want to go to as automation. And if they say no, never automation. So here we've already done a lot more than I think I had automated in my first few careers, first years in web, where we have a first name, a last name, and then we ask them a question and we get a different thing. So how do we actually test this? How do we see that this is working? Well, we go here. A reminder that Google does automatically save your work. So as you're clicking around, as you're doing it, it'll automatically save your progress when you're signed in. So as you can see here, this is actually how the form is going to look to our users. So here I can put in here, Bradley Taylor have you ever created and automation before? Yeah, and automation. And I said yes. Oh, so then when I hit next, what have you built? If I go back and I say no, what do you hope to learn? So that's how you can guide people through when you're actually creating forms to collect data. Because if there's one thing you'll learn in this course is that data collection, whether it be automated or having people give it to you automatically through a form, is going to be crucial for you to be able to do a lot of these automations. So, getting the right data is very important. So here I'm going to go back. I'm going to say, yes, I have. What have you built? I'm going to need a minute. I'm not going to bore you with that. But then we go here. Now, here's something interesting. When I hit next, it says, what do you hope to learn? There's a bug in this. So let's go fix the bug. So if we know this is working, so after this, it says continue to the next section. We're going to say submit the form. We don't want it to go to the next section. So now when I preview this, it already has mine saved in here. I say I'm going to need a minute. I hit submit. It doesn't go to that different one. So making that little change, and just to recap what I did there was I went in and set up my thing, set up my multiple choice. I chose the go-to section based on answer, yes or no. And have you automated before? What have you built? So I have a question here. And then I updated. So after this section, it should submit the form. If you had another section, so for instance, let's say I had a fourth section down here that I wanted to go to, I could say go to section 4 instead of that one. So that's just how you can make people go in the path that you want. So now when you start getting responses, this is where you can start seeing, here's a summary. How many people answered yes? How many people answered no? You can copy this information. You can use it to share your boss. You can use it for whatever form you're creating in there. You can get some information on it. So then it also has a few other settings. So for instance, you can make this a quiz. We're not going to go over that, but if you make this, it'll actually allow you to assign values, assign points, correct answers, and provide feedback to users. So very powerful in that. So then we have responses. So do you want to collect email addresses? In this case, I don't. If you say that you can either have verified, which means they have to be logged in with their Google account for it to be verified. Not everyone has a Google account. Or based off the responder input, meaning someone actually put their input, their email, and it would just add an email. Allow people to respond. You can limit it so that people that can only do one response, or you can make it so they can submit multiple. If you're going to do like a form for like a contest or something, maybe you want to maybe limit it to one response. And then you can also have some form defaults and some default questions, to make them all. Now, this is great to get an overview, but what if you actually want to really use this in your automations and your CSVs and stuff like that? That's where you can link this to a Google Sheet. So if I click on create new sheet, it's going to create a brand new sheet, or I can select an existing. Since this is a brand new account, I don't have any other files, so this is the only way I can only create a new one. So I'm going to hit create. And what this is going to do is then give me a spreadsheet. So I can see as these are put in and as people fill out the form, this information will be collected for me in a Google Sheet so that I can then run my own analysis on it. I can hook this up to other automations. I can see that new rows are imported, which we'll do in this course to kick off welcome emails or lots of other things. But this is the most basic of automations you can create, submitting a form through Google Sheets. So now that we've done it on Google Sheets, we're going to learn together how to do it in Microsoft. As I mentioned, I am a Google, and we use Google products ourselves, but I understand that a lot of people use Microsoft still has a significant share of that market. So we want to make sure that this is for everyone. So In my research and what I found is that really the only way that you can use Google 365 or Microsoft 365 is by signing up for one of their plans. So it has some backup. When I was looking at their for home, you can do family home. I think it's like $5 per month. I did not see a free version. And even then for home, you need the 1250 business standard to be able to get Word, Excel, PowerPoint, like all the stuff that you need for business. And then for home, oh, it looks like home, you can do this, but it's $10 a month. So in order to do, it looks like they do have a $6.99 package that does have Excel. So we are going to do this. We're going to purchase this at $6.99 a month, and we're going to create a new one, and we're going to call this one Digital at Scale Demo. Make it the same one. Get a new email address. Here we go. Digital at Scale Demo. And ooh, do I want a Hotmail? Do I want an Outlook.com? I think I'm gonna go a little nostalgic and go with my Hotmail. I haven't had a Hotmail since the 90s. So we'll go with that one. All right, so create a password. Once again, let's see if I remember the transition this time. I'm taking a cognitive test. Jeez. I'm not a robot. Jeez, that was one of the most intense. I don't know if you saw that, but it said, "Thank you for helping us beat the robots." I'm like, you're Microsoft. You're literally the biggest funder of creating these things. Anyway, all right, so we're going to do this. Great. Confirm. All right, so once again, I'm going to, if you want to follow along. So it's now getting our things ready, getting our email. I now get a Hotmail. That's awesome. And thank you for subscribing. Let's get started. So now that we've signed up for a Microsoft account, we're now starting to go with Microsoft Forms. So theirs is a little bit more whizzy. So in this case, we're just going to do a basic survey, but it looks like they have the ability to do a quiz, an invitation, a registration. So we're going to just choose a basic survey here and see what the differences are. As you said, I'm kind of doing this along with you, but it looks like you can go in here and let's go ahead and quick start. So we're going to go ahead and quick start. We're going to give it a text field. I'm going to say first name. We're going to try to recreate the exact same form that we just did. So here you have the same kind of copy, delete. It has the ability to add branching. So what we just built, restrictions on, oh, this is interesting. So this one actually has a little bit more instead of just required or not. So this is the other reason I'm going to be showing a lot of different tools, because as if you remember, you only had the option in Google to say whether it was here, you only have whether it was required or not. I can't actually, oh, no, there's a response validation. I stand corrected. They both have that ability. All right, so we go here. We're going to say last name, and it has the same, it looks like almost the exact same options. So the different types of fields, ranking. This one has what's called a net promoter score, which is interesting on that. But here I'm going to say, have you ever automated anything before? And we're going to say yes, no, and we're going to remove maybe. And then once again, we're going to say add branching. So when I say go there, I need to add before I add branching, just like I did the other one's sections. So we're going to add a new question, and we're going to say this text or this section. So has automated, and the text, what have you automated? And then we're going to add a new section, not automated. And the question for this, we're going to say, what do you hope to learn? So we're going to go back up here to our have you ever automated anything before? And we're going to say that this is a branch. And when you say this, I'm going to say yes, has automated, go to not automated. And then at the end, it's going to be the end of the form. and at this one, the end of the form. So what we did was we created the same first name, last name, the same multiple choice question with have they ever automated, if they has not. One thing that you're going to see about me is my spelling is atrocious, and it's gotten even worse since with AI, just knowing what's there. But now we have the same form. So now we go back here and we preview this form. I can now say Bradley Taylor. Oh, did I put it needs to be a number? I did. Let's remove this restriction and preview again. Bradley Taylor, have you ever automated? No. What do you hope to learn? AI and lots of cool stuff. Submit. So now we have this, save my response, submit another response. So here we can go back to this. So now we see we have responses. So this gives us a little bit more information. So for instance here, I really like this. It gives us our average time to complete, whether or not it's active. That's actually really cool that it gives you that, because if you have these long forms, that's taking really long for people to fill out, you won't necessarily do it. But it has a very similar response and has the ability to open this in Excel, just like we did with Google Sheets. So here we have built, and with this sheet, we can then hook up our automations to this to then key off personalization, email, whatever we want to do with this information once we've submitted the form. So we've really shown how with these two automations with Google Forms, this is day one. This is the very first automation that we're creating. And throughout this course, we're going to be completing even more advanced. So tomorrow, what we're going to be digging into is Answer AI, and we're going to be talking to some chatbots. And in particular, we're going to be taking the voter PDF that California gives. So I'm a voter in California, and every year they give us a voter book, which is somewhere around here. But I'll have it for tomorrow, and it's like 150 pages, right? Well, what if you could just chat with that? What if you could just ask questions? These are the things that I care most about. What if you could then use AI to then research that? Well, that's what we're going to be going over tomorrow. I can't wait to see what these next 60 days bring. And I'm really excited about this. And thank you so much for joining us. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye.